Hey everyone, this is Akshat, and we are continuing with our podcast series on how to use prompt engineering effectively to build your own LLM features. Today we have a very esteemed guest, Arshad. He works in Big Vision, it's a AI consultancy firm, and he has a deep experience of working in computer vision, different LLM, and he have been working in ML and AI fields for quite a bit time. So yes, let's listen from Arshad and learn from his experience now. So Arshad, first of all, I want to know what is the nature of work you do, like in which company, and like what is your position, and like what is the work you have been working on recently.
So I work at Big Vision, which is a consultancy for AI related stuff. So initially we were only in the space of computer vision. Now we've expanded to more generalized AI tasks. My work includes kind of getting requirements from the clients,
Okay.
then creating kind of a workflow pipeline architecture around it, and
Okay.
then delegating or working on it myself to get those up and running, communicate the progress updates with the clients, and so on.
Okay. Yeah. So Arshad, so my next question is the world is buzzing up about prompt engineering or
Mm.
LLMs these days. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
have you done any kind of prompt engineering yourself, like any prompt you have written or something, any personal
Uh,
experience?
s- yeah, so in the space of computer vision, when we talk about stable diffusion,
Yeah. Yeah.
DALI, and all those things,
Yeah.
my team, along with OpenCV University, have you heard about OpenCV?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So my team, along with in collaboration with OpenCV University, created a course on stable diffusion, how to get it working, how prompt engineering in that context work, and all those things.
Okay.
Then recently, with the GPT APIs, I have created a solution for a recruitment agency,
Mm-hmm.
which they will be starting to pitch to clients and investors starting this Wednesday. So that's completely based off of GPT APIs and using prompts in that. I was also a co-host recently in webinar with Dr. Satya Malik, he is CEO of OpenSearch,
Okay.
where we kind of discussed ChatGPT API prompts and then how or what uh, you need to do to make them kind of give answers which are reliant, because there is variations, there is probability involved. You want certain temperature uh, to be added so that there is enough variability, but not so much that the results are extremely garbage. Plus, you need to put some guardrails. So those kinds of things were discussed in that webinar. So yeah, I have used prompt engineering in different aspects.
Okay. So I think you might understand my next question. So what are the some challenges which you have personally faced while doing prompt engineering?
So is this question specifically with LLMs or the image stable
Yeah,
diffusion and those kinds of things also?
I think like again to just clarify, our idea is more around like at this moment is more around LLM, but we will also
Mhm.
go into other aspect as well. And I think
Yeah,
this answer can be done in terms of LLMs as well as image as well,
right,
because
right.
yeah, basic experimentation phase is I think similar for both. You can differentiate as well, like as you
Yeah,
suggest, you can give lights on both the aspect of it,
mhm.
like
Right,
in
yeah,
image in LLM, how do you do it, the errors you face and everything.
right, right. I'll keep most of my answers targeted towards LLMs.
Okay.
So one kind of issue that generally comes up is when using ChatGPT 3.5 versus 4 APIs or LLMA also. What generally happens is that if you have variability, there is a high chance that if you run a prompt over and over, it is going to give you different outputs, right? Now, when you want to create some solution from that, you want certain guardrails placed. Like, for example, I want the output in JSON format.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes it will not be a valid JSON format, but it looks like a valid JSON format.
Yeah.
So those kinds of issues are very, very kind of hard to resolve.
Hmm.
Plus, not very easy to reproduce, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I understand.
you come across them in prod when certain output is not coming correctly,
Yeah.
and you realize, okay, there's this issue. Those kinds of things, I think, are one of the bigger challenges. Another one is that, uh, let's say you very easily get access to 3.5 API.
Yeah.
Let's say you are just starting out.
Yeah.
4 definitely performs a lot better. So there is a high chance whatever prompt you are going to write, 4 will answer correctly, but 3.5 won't.
Okay.
So uh, it's very difficult for someone to understand how the output which GPT-4 is giving,
Hmm.
how to kind of reproduce that in 3.5, because 4 is very expensive, it's very slow, it's not kind of, especially if you're doing something at scale, that's not very useful. So you want to use 3.5 API, or you want to use Llama 2 to do these kinds of things, but you want to do them with high resilience. So how do you make your output resilient so that you can use it in your software? That's, I think, the biggest challenge.
Okay. So, I said I have two questions here. So, I will ask the first question, then I will move on to the next question. Okay.
Sure.
So, the first question is like you mentioned, there are different models out there. Okay.
Mhm.
So, how do you go on and decide, which model should you use for a use case? Or it is like you use all the models. So I just want to know, like, what is the process of framework, like when you get a project, what is the framework or the approach which you take, like selecting a model, then writing
Mhm.
prompts, or writing prompt and then running on different models. So what is the whole process of these things?
So it depends on certain conditions. For example, if the requirement is that data cannot leave kind of secure infrastructure, it can't go to, let's say, OpenAI servers,
Mm-hmm.
then we have to do something which runs locally on a server, and something like that. Then you have to go with solutions like Llama 2. Right?
Okay.
At this point, according to me, that does best so far. I could be wrong, but whatever applications I want to build, I'm fairly confident that it will do a good job running on that. If that is not a condition, then a lot of possibilities open up with 3.5, GPT-4, Llama 2, and there are a few others out there. You could train your own. You could use some BERT-based solution and build on top of that. But the way I usually do it is I try it on Playground with OpenAI's API,
Mm-hmm.
see the output.
Mm-hmm.
Once I'm fairly confident that I'm getting results the way I want them to, then I compare them across different solutions to see which one suits best, which one gives the best answer, which
Okay.
one gives the best answer with lesser and fewer prompt and guardrails.
Okay. Okay. And I said the second question is about, like you mentioned, various challenges, the resilience of the
Mhm.
prompt or the system.
Yeah,
So, like, how do, like, as you mentioned, it's a difficult problem to tackle. Okay,
correct.
but like you must be having some approach right now. I am
Yeah.
sure to tackle this in a most efficient way as per you. So
Yeah.
can you just throw some light on it?
So when we're talking about GPT 3.5,
Okay.
where it's less likely
Mhm.
or more likely to hallucinate, it's very important to give it certain keywords that don't add information. The output should be a valid JSON format, which can be loaded with, let's say, if you're doing Python, then JSON.loads,
Okay.
those kinds of things. So there are certain statements that you need to add at the beginning and end of your prompts,
Okay.
which make it uh, kind of more resilient, but still not 100% resilient. If you kind of uh, again, there are two kinds of things, right? If you want your answer to be, let's say, yes, no, a certain value or some calculation, right? Those kinds of things, then you don't need kind of higher temperature. By temperature, I mean, I'm sure you know, it becomes more creative with more temperature, right? So if we don't want creative answers, we can just set it to zero. It will not give creative answers. It will become very deterministic. And then we can just create our prompt, test out our solution, and it works fine because there is no chance of non-deterministic outputs. But in a lot of cases, the best case of use case of this LLM is that it is creative, right? It is able to give you statements and answers which otherwise would require a person. So when you want these kinds of answers as well, let's say you want to summarize or you want to ask certain questions, those kinds of things, then you want um, these extra things at the beginning and at the end to make sure that it does not hallucinate, to make sure it is in the right format, to make
Mm-hmm.
sure, let's say if you have a JSON output, then it has all the valid keys, to make sure it does not have any extra information or extra useless keys, because that's going to add up to your cost
Mm-hmm.
when you're running, let's say, the OpenAI APIs, uh, and some guardrail statements to make sure the output is in the format that you want,
Mm-hmm.
are kind of some of the steps that you need to take in that case.
Mm-hmm. I said the next point which I want to like, because you mentioned like you have to check all those things like
Mhm.
hallucination
Yeah,
and output quality and everything, like if it is in the certain output format you want. So my next
correct.
question is like, and you also mentioned like you need to check your output across the write different prompts, check those prompts across different
Hmm.
models. Okay. Now, if we, multiply, like even if I have a set of 10, 12 prompts and for
Hmm.
each like 10, 12 input, okay.
Hmm.
And there are 4 to 5 models if I want to check. Then also it's more
Right.
like 12 into 10 into, 4 is more 400, 500 different combinations can be created. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And in real world, like this combination can be very used. I'm just taking a more, ideal or more realistic combinations. Now, how
Right.
do you, compare all the outputs? You mentioned like which output is good, which output is bad. Like you do it like manually, like read or see in case of vision, like see each and every output yourself, or like yourself or some human, like you appoint some human, or is it like you use some metrics to measure it? Like what is the approach here? Or mixed
Uh,
of both?
right. n- Right now, it's subjective. A human reads and checks if the output is better in model A versus model B or prompt A versus prompt B.
Okay. Okay, so it's more like it's subjective. So now my another point is like, when you have so much output and so much combination, like how, like what is the documentation process? Like one, like what steps would one take to document it so that you can be aware, like, okay, I have done all this experimentation, or my team has, like in a single person it is slightly easy,
Hmm.
but when you have a
Yeah.
team beneath you, like because you lead teams, so yeah,
Right.
so there is a team beneath you, like so you have to track like person A has done these prompts, like person B should
Hmm.
not work on the same task. Okay,
Right.
so what is the, how do you document and maintain all these procedures?
Yeah. Right now, there is not a very good process for that. It's basically assigning different tasks to different people so that that problem does not happen, and then kind of sitting with that person to make sure that the process that they followed to come to that conclusion was a sound one. Basically, it's a manual process right now.
Okay. And like my other point is like, as you mentioned, there are lots of models. So similarly, lots of new tricks are coming out in prompt engineering,
Mhm.
and there are lots of model as well coming out. Okay.
Right.
So how one gets updated about it? How do you keep yourself updated? What are your, like? How do you do it? Like any new tips, tricks, anything?
It's more like company's internal community right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
people keep sharing interesting things that they read from
Mm-hmm.
towards data science, LinkedIn, and other blog places. Also, Big Vision has its own. So you have heard about Learn OpenCV, right? It's kind of computer vision's blog, one of the biggest ones, which OpenCV CEO Satya Malik writes, right? So Satya Malik also owns Big Vision. So we have that kind of community which keeps sharing these things for us to keep updated. But that does not apply to others, right? So it's um, I'm sure that others would kind of feel a bit lost to get to know these kinds of things until they become too mainstream and everyone is already doing it.
Okay. So Arshad, my last question is about, like, let's assume there is a person who does not is who is not very much familiar or hands-on experience with LLMs and
Hmm.
everything. Okay,
Yeah,
but as you can see, everybody is trying to adopt LLM in kind of some feature in their like existing startups or company, or like
correct,
finding a new idea on top of it. Okay, so
correct.
how would you like, what are your like, if assume like I am a person who is not very much familiar to it, but I have certain idea, like, okay, I can use,
Mhm.
okay, I want to build some startup
Right,
and speak to the world. So, in short, what is your, go-to approach? Like, what approach should take to, go from this ideation to a fully developed product um,
right.
in the best
So,
possible way?
right. So there are two kinds of things that could come up. One is that there is some experienced person whose knowledge is being used to do everything, right? One or more experienced person, for example, doctors, for example, lawyers, right? The other thing is manual repetitive task, which human does right now, but it has to be automated. So there's one task where scale is needed, that a lot of things have to be done repeatedly over and over, the same thing. The other one is where skill is needed, right? That a lot of information has to be available to give the correct answer. There's more, it has more non-deterministic nature than the first one. So those two things kind of get separated out. That one, you follow a different procedure for both. Uh, with when we're talking about skilled personnel and their kind of stuff being replaced or improved, it does not have to be replaced every time. It could be something that helps them come to conclusions quicker. Right? So in that case, we need um, solutions which are more sophisticated, more um, have more context. For example, GPT-4 or Llama 2, those kinds of things. Then we need to have a bigger repository of kind of context available for the LLM to start building. That's one approach when we're talking about the skilled ones. The more commonly occurring is the repetitive tasks that you want to, let's say, remove the CA's guy who copies transactions from your bank statement to the tool, right? So
Okay.
in that case, you need a much um, like less intelligent solution, but you want it to process things quicker. You want it to replicate whatever this person is doing, and so you need to follow what they do in their steps and understand from their context. And it's a much smaller context, but a lot of small steps that they do. So it becomes a lot of small prompts, which will eventually come to the final conclusion. So there's two different paths that kind of get taken for any problem. So based on that, whatever the problem at hand is, these different things of that.
Okay. Thank you, Asad. So that was very helpful. Okay, I think when my team also hears it, like, everybody, for everyone in, like, it is a very, helpful set of questions.
So, guys, that's all for today. Thanks for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done it yet to stay updated on emerging prompt engineering and LLM trends. Also, we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave your questions in the comment section that you want us to discuss in our next podcast episode. And remember to share this podcast with anyone who might find it helpful. Stay tuned for more engaging conversations next week. Bye bye.